Uh, it's That's an old one, so in the mid 60s, and it's a very cute story about the Professor Higgins who met the girl, Eliza Doolittle. She was a flower girl, so she sell flowers on the London street, just to make some money to to support herself. And she behaved, and her accent, they really betrayed her as a, from the very very simple and poor social class, yeah, from the very specific region of London. This Professor Higgins, he actually took a kind of a personal challenge to turn this girl into the lady that who will be recognized as a lady from the high society uh, by um, uh, by others. He started to teach her the right pronunciation, to eliminate her accent. He started to teach her different manners and so on. So, and in a few months, he actually make it possible that uh, everyone others, all those snobby guys and ladies from the higher society, they when they met this Eliza Doolittle, they said something like, "Wow, it's a lady from the highest level of society. She's really, she's one of us." So and this movie actually it highlights in very you know um, in very interesting manner this this kind of idea of prejudgment of some people just because of their origins, right? So that's the first example, and another one is from Russian classical literature. It's from the Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky book. Actually, in this novel, there are some different lines of the plot, right? Because all of the brothers Karamazov, they all have very specific way of, very specific, uh, I'd say, life. Because they were grown up in different ways, despite they all have the same father, but nevertheless, and based on the way of how they were grown up, um, all of them actually faced with I would call it kind of prejudgment from the other people, because based on that. So, and this is another one illustration of this idea that people very often judge about other people just based on how they different from themselves, right? So you're different from me, and that's give me, that's why I can, criticize you, something like that, right? So that's not, which is actually not fair. It's not the right way. Yeah, because it's a sort of groupism, right? Okay, so do you have any other ideas which might support this, Sheila? What do you think, guys? Okay, what do you think? Can we go to the next one? Okay, so this is my favorite one. So strict adherence to the principle of yama and niyama. And here, I would like to start with two citations of Sri Sri Anandamurti from two different books. The first one is Light Comes. Um, so he said, the first step of sadhana is yama niyama, which is moral principles that constitute the very base of light of a spiritual aspirant and serve as a beacon of in the life of a spiritual aspirant to dispel all darkness from the mind. The 10 weapons of yama and niyama give the sadhaka the spiritual strength to fight against all sorts of crudeness. So, and in his other book, The World and the Next, he elaborated in even deeply in more details. So those who do not follow yama and niyama, cause of self-restraint, those who endeavor to attain God without the sadhana or samyama, self-control, are troubled by a multitude of distraction. If they absorb themselves in singing spiritual songs, kirtana, the mental proclivities are temporarily focused on the divine one. Their body shows signs of spiritual awakening. Tears flow from their eyes, and they attain the trance of subjectivity, of a samadhi. But immediately after the kirtana Hayan session has ended, their unrestrained and incontinent minds race towards impropensities with an even greater momentum. That is why such sadhakas are very dishonest, depraved, and deceitful, and even go so far as to defraud their own relatives. So, what is actually this idea about? It's here our guru represented how why it is how actually you know do not follow in yama how it is distracted sadhaka from his sadhana, because you can't concentrate on the divine one. You can't keep this focus for a long time, and it's badly affect your meditation and achieving the final state of samadhi, because your mind will be really distracted by those things that make it, which comes from the from the bad emotions, which comes from which always appeared if you do not follow yama and niyama principles. Yeah. And some more citation here on this slide. Does anyone want to read? Any volunteers?
I can read.
Mm-hmm.
The chariot and the charioteer. Moving the body like chariot becomes difficult, and the horses of the chariot are stupid, and if the control of the mind, like rein over them, is improper or lax. Thus, it is of primary importance to have a perfect hold on the mind like rein and guide the horses properly with its help. The rein should be strong, and the horses should become disciplined through proper training. This is the way to gain control over the organs, and for this, the principles of yama, abstinences, and niyama, observances, asanas, postures, pranayama, breath control, etc. Should I read the second one?
Yes, please, if you don't mind.
I have become a hero. In this fight against avidya, Shakti, one must have sufficient weapons. You know, a soldier requires weapons, and sadhana is a fight. If your internal sphere that is, in your mind, you should have 10 weapons. Those 10 weapons are 5 yama and 5 niyama, moral principles. And similarly, while fighting against evil forces in this crude physicality, you should have ultra-modern physical weapons also. Those who want disarmament and those who want to ban the atom bomb are not friends of human society. They do not want to accelerate the speed of human society. Rather, they want to retard its progress. Weapons you must have, but you should have control over your body and mind. There must not be any abuse or misuse of your weapons.
Thank you, Maria. Yeah. So, and here are some examples of, there are many really good movies and books that, highlighted the different aspects of these 10 principles of Yama and Niyama. I just pick a few one. Something that is, I'm pretty sure that everyone see the movie Avatar. Yeah, and in this movie there are some different, it's this movie is actually really good support the idea of, non-violent attitude. Yeah, on non-violent, how to say, uh, cooperation with another world, another species, another planet, right? So they also highlight the idea of asteya, so non-stealing, because as you remember, the main plot of this movie is about, stealing from other planet, the special stone, right? And the idea of truthfulness, or satya, is also represented there because, at some point, the main character, mm, you know, he started his path at the Pandora as a warrior, and at some point he turned to the way he really believes is more, um, you know that uh, that is right for him and for the planet. Yeah. And another a book which represented these principles very good and in from the different perspectives. Actually, it's a Bhagavad Gita. It's a great book from the Indian epos. So which highlighted the also the principles of say non-violence, but from the perspective when and in which circumstances you really need to fight. So, and how you need to fight in this case, you know. Okay, so that's it on my side. If you have any comments, ideas, please feel free to share. Yeah, about you raised the hand.
Okay, thank you. That's very beautiful examples as well. I very like your use of Brother Karamazov's. Um, I was gonna say, yeah, there is an interesting story there about two elder spiritual, you could say, leaders, old man Zosima, and forget the other one.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them is a mentor for Alyosha, or the young
Mm-hmm.
brother. He's like his mentor, and when he dies, well, he's like a saintly figure for him, right? He's like his guide, like his guru in many ways. And Alyosha
Yes.
is basically contemplating to become a monk or not to become a monk. And then the Zosima tells him, well, you have to be part of this world, you have to go on and learn. I forget the expression, but he says you have to get more experience. You have to don't rush things or like get experienced. And pretty much when he dies, the man, not Alyosha, but the Zosima, his mentor dies, he starts to give this smell, which supposedly saintly people are not supposed to give when they die. So, and then other people start to gossip. People start to, oh, say, oh, so it turns out he was a sinner, he was this and this and that. And there's
Mhm.
one ascetic who was basically fasting a lot, praying a lot, living on his own. He was a very hardcore, like ascetic, living on his own, like outsider, you could say even. And he was actually using very bad and abusive language against his mentor, Alyosha's mentor. And this is the trying moment for Alyosha. Basically, his faith is being shattered because he faced that, human beings are not perfect. But then he kind of reconciles later on. I don't want to spoiler it too much, but basically, like perfection in this physical world is a far cry, largely not possible, but in the spiritual world can be attained. And the second example here, which is very interesting about, I really love that she used example from the Avatar. Basically, it's a very interesting thing that the main character basically, essentially discovers. He learns to be in the body of this blue species of the Navi person. He falls in love literally with the representative from that community, and he actually learns the ways of those people. And originally he comes from this background of a fighter who's basically just gonna
Mhm.
exploit this country and society and planet really, and just exploit, take away the resources and get done with it. But through learning, being exposed to different culture, through I guess empathy and literally romantic love, he learns. He expands his mind, through this dialogue. It's a beautiful exploration of the so-called mainstream culture and the indigenous cultures. Not only the First Nations, the Navi people basically represent the indigenous culture. It's interesting because yoga and tantra, in a way, are indigenous cultures from the modern day India. And there's a lot of discourse going on how many people exploit yoga and tantra right now. There's a reduced approach to understanding those cultures. So very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Nirmal. So, any other ideas, guys? Do you want to share something related to these two Shilas about Yama and Niyama and you know criticizing others? Do you want to share your personal experience?
I would like to just talk a little bit more because I'm having a little bit of trouble understanding this concept. Something isn't
Mm.
clicking right. So the point is that it's very similar to what we did last Thursday, where it was about justice more than this. The point is to essentially say, I am not going to be troubling others, but being peaceful and trying to improve myself, correct? That's the main core of it all.
You mean the Shila number 9, right? So
Yeah, the one you're
avoiding
currently doing,
invited.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's the main idea from my understanding is is about just keeping the positive and a positive attitude to anyone, not to mention to their racial differences, cultural differences, I don't know, social groups differences and stuff like that. So not
Hmm.
not to mention their origins or any other things. So it shouldn't be a ground for any kind of criticizing or fighting with others. So that's
Okay.
that issue is about.
Okay, well, that actually, okay. Now I understand why it didn't click in my head, and I'll explain it as I can, and we can discuss with hopefully, if someone has a timer, make it 5 minutes so that we don't go off and take someone else's time too. The case of Avatar is actually a really good example to discuss this point. The indigenous people, Navi, I think that was the name of the Terra, I think. It was a Jupiter moon. I don't remember its name. But the point is that the indigenous people were faced with a different culture and a different approach to handling the planet. The humans wanted to exploit the resources. They wanted to live in peace with nature. There's a conflict here. How is the Navi supposed to be peaceful and accepting of someone else's ideas when those ideas are either disruptive, destructive, or in this case, causing conflict? Because not even all of the stuff the humans were doing were actively destructive. Even the instructor, the teacher that was trying to teach English ended up being a bit of a problem for them because she wanted good, but by introducing human concepts and introducing human parallels between the two cultures, she was inadvertently introducing even more conflict into their own culture. So how do you apply this concept to a situation where two groups are essentially bound to have problems between each other?
Very good question, I think. I would say that this problem you're talking about arising from the nature of this conflict, because all this colonization approach, it's always about taking advantage of other social groups based on the technology superiority or any other kind of superiority, right? So so this basic idea, this ground idea, root idea, it's that's a root problem of this clash between different cultures, right? So what the Shiva is saying about is so I would say that here we have the situation of not following the yama niyama principles, right? Because it's obviously there's in this situation there is an willingness to find something to make a to take advantage of someone's resources and other land and so on. So I would say that in this situation, the root reason of this attitude should be eliminated first. Nirmal, you want to say something? Yeah,
I'm just trying to do the facilitator's job as well here. It's a good discussion. Again, I wouldn't remind you, like, we have as much time as we can. We've agreed upon this. We can continue, the discussion in the chat or
Time's up.
in the Zoom chat or afterwards in the group. It's fine. I just put my ideas, how just kind of a few words that you can fight as a part of Yama Niyama. Just this particular Sheila that Ekamati was talking about, it's different. The point is, okay, it was called Titan, the moon. Yeah, thank you for the planet, you mean, right? So in other words,
Moon-sized planet.
okay. The point, the Sheila is not about. I mean, you can fight. This entire, how do you say, Yama Niyama, it works with the tantric paradigm that all life is a struggle and that you do what you must do. However, one must do it non-violently, adhering to the principles. And this particular Shila that Ekamati is talking about is specifically about the negative consequences of a person who criticizes and condemns Muslims and kind of does such actions, because these actions will create reactions. So the more you criticize, the more it becomes your mindset, the more you become similar to what you criticize in a way. So if you're aware about it and if you criticize, I think, negative things, that's a different thing. That's like a constructive criticism, means you're planning to do something constructively. But I guess it's more about the destructive side of all of this. Anyways, we can continue talking about this stuff, but Ekamati, thank you very much. You've started a great discussion, great examples. I personally really resonate. But let's continue and move to Japesh, who has got the 12th Shila. Japesh, the floor is yours.
All right, let me just share screen. Everyone sees the first slide?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So I'll be discussing the 12th Shila. Even while dealing with a person of inimical nature, one must keep oneself free from hatred, anger, and vanity. So I don't have many resources from Ananda Marga. So I did find some stuff online, their perspective, as well as the perspective of some great minds in relation to hatred, anger. So Ananda Marga, feelings of anger and hatred, while understandable reactions to social injustice, are still problematic as they make it difficult to rationally approach a situation at hand and make meditation and spiritual ideation nearly impossible. Fortunately, these emotions can be effectively transformed. So, when we feel angry, it's easy to feel justified in our emotion towards the person who we think is the reasons can vary, but when we feel angry, it's usually towards someone who is sort of upsetting us in a way. But the restraint, it's it's not necessarily for the benefit, not just for the benefit of the others, it's also for the benefit of ourselves. Because as just from this first statement, it prevents us from being able to resolve the situation. And even us as spiritual aspirants, it actually hinders our progress. So it is also helpful to understand that anger is classified by the yogis as one of the 6 inner enemies of the mind. These are lust, anger, greed, worldly attachment, vanity, and envy. Being innate to us, their removal is not possible and their suppression is dangerous, but we can learn to control and eventually transform these feelings. Hatred is one of the 8 imposed, created by contact with the world, fetters of the mind. These 8 are hatred, doubt, fear, shyness or shame, hypocrisy, pride of lineage, pride of culture, and false sense of prestige. As these are not intrinsic to the mind, but arise from outside, they can be successfully resisted. So the way to overcome these negative tendencies, they provided some steps. The first step in learning to control anger and resist hatred is to do your best to cultivate the opposite tendency, to replace a negative feeling with its opposite. This is key to dealing with any feelings or emotion we wish to control or transform. For example, overcome anger by patience, dishonesty by honesty, greed by generosity, falsehood by truth. So when you find yourself feeling anger over social injustices and hatred toward the perpetrators, try to replace it with feelings of love and compassion for those who are oppressed and exploited. This will be much easier if you use your energy to do whatever you can to help. Service work such as feeding those without enough food or building shelters for the homeless is a wonderful way to encourage these feelings to blossom. Also, by generously giving up some of your time, energy, and money, you may overcome feelings of greed and attachment too. So step 2. Step 1 is not sufficient. Replacing a negative feeling with this opposite is a vital step, but it's only the first step in the transformation. The next step requires that you carefully follow a strong moral code. Yogic tradition recommends yama and niyama. Step 3. Spiritual practice is the only way to gain complete mastery over these and other emotions, as this enables you to eventually sublimate all such emotions into higher spiritual ideation. We recommend meditation and selfless service, along with associated practices, diet, yoga postures, chanting.
Excuse me,
Through
Japesh,
meditation.
are you sharing screen? Because we can only see the first slide.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Is it only me or
Thank you.
everybody sees the first one?
Yeah, I'm also she's the only first one.
We only see the
Well,
title slide, Japesh.
thank you for informing me.
Sorry, I was frozen.
I was assuming that was normal.
Yeah, I also assumed that like a very big build up to some like super point.
No, no.
Behind the scene. Yeah.
So you guys see these slides, right?
Yeah, Nanda Marga.
Do you see
Yep, how to
this
overcome.
slide?
Yep.
Okay, great. So I think I was here. Through meditation and these other practices, the mind becomes more subtle, allowing the small I or ego to gradually identify more completely with the universal I, the divine. The more complete this identification, the more these emotions transform into love for all creation. You may ultimately find that you can feel compassion for those who exploit and oppress. This does not mean, of course, that one should condone social injustice or that one should stop working for social change. But one can accomplish this work even better when guided by love and calm, rational assessment of what is needed. So very related to even what Ekamati was talking about, right? You have these oppressors. You need to do what you need to do to protect yourself, uh, your environment, but you don't want feelings of hatred. You want the guide to be love and calm and actually a resolution for the benefit of everyone. So these 3 steps are most effective when understood as part of a single process of spiritual growth and transformation. Krishnamurti, his perspective on anger. Anger has that peculiar quality of isolation. Like sorrow, it cuts one off, and for the time being, at least, all relationship comes to an end. The anger of disappointment, of jealousy, of the urge to wound gives the violent release whose pleasure is self-justification. We condemn others, and that very condemnation is a justification of ourselves. We use every means to bolster ourselves up. And anger, like hate, is one of the easiest ways. Simple anger, a sudden flare-up, which is quickly forgotten, is one thing, but the anger that is deliberately built up, that has been brewed, and that seeks to hurt and destroy is quite another matter. Most of us do not mind being angry. We find an excuse for it. Why should we not be angry when there is ill treatment of another or of ourselves? So we become righteously angry. We never just say we are angry and stop there. We go into elaborate explanations of its cause. We never just say that we are jealous or bitter, but justify or explain it. It is the explanation, the verbalization, whether silent or spoken, that sustains anger, that gives it scope and depth. The explanation, silent or spoken, acts as a shield against the discovery of ourselves as we are. The storing up of anger, which is resentment, requires the antidote of forgiveness, but the storing up of anger is far more significant than forgiveness. Forgiveness is unnecessary when there is no accumulation of anger. And the Dalai Lama, he mentioned a story that always stuck with me. He mentioned a Tibetan monk he knew who spent 18 years in Chinese prisons. When this monk reported being in danger during that time, His Holiness thought he was referring to threats to his life. However, the monk clarified that he had at times been in danger of losing his sense of compassion for his Chinese jailers. His Holiness cited this monk as someone with a remarkable degree of peace of mind. So just to give a little background on the situation in Tibet, you had the Chinese government go into Tibet and literally destroy their culture. 6,000 temples destroyed, people persecuted, killed, jailed. And if you look into their culture, it was a culture based on peace, on compassion, on I think one in six in their population was a monk, and the society was helping their monks achieve enlightenment, and the enlightened beings would in turn provide spiritual inspiration to the people. So it was a very reciprocally beneficial relationship. But you see, this monk who was in jail for 18 years, who experienced all this, he was afraid of losing compassion to the people who persecuted the Tibetans. His Holiness also explained that the basic nature of the mind is pure, and that purity is referred to as Buddha nature. This is what underlies the idea that we can reduce and eliminate destructive emotions and purify the mind. He clarified that the quality of our action depends on our motivation, not so much on whether it is gentle or forceful. If the motivation is positive and compassionate, the action that follows will be beneficial. When we are angry, the object of our anger seems to be absolutely negative. However, we can counter this by reflecting that nothing exists independently in the way it appears. Experience teaches that today's enemy can become tomorrow's friend. The label enemy is our mental projection. And this reminds me of a book we read in our previous Prachar school. I think Nirmal, you mentioned it also. Within the indigenous culture, they had something called thunder beings. And thunder beings are those people that come into our lives that might seem like they're challenging people. They might seem like our enemy at the moment. But these people that come into our lives, they could be actually our greatest teacher. They're there to teach us something, because how can we learn patience or grow our patience without having these situations or having these people come into our lives? So, looking at things deeply, maybe there's a greater purpose to these things that are happening. And the Indian master Shanti Deva commented that our enemy can be our best teacher. Being kind to your enemy is to show pure kindness, whereas showing kindness and affection to friends is generally mixed with attachment. And within Buddhism, the cause of suffering is attachment. So it's very easy to show kindness to those that are kind to you. But I think the challenge, the real test of our character, is towards those that really challenge us. Where is our what is our core? Where is our stability? And I think it's revealed through these very difficult situations in life. And reflecting on this Sheila, I was reminded of Pope John Paul II. The first image on the left is the assassination attempt on him. I think he was shot 2 times. The photo on the right is Pope John Paul meeting with his assassin. And, very clear that he didn't harbor any of that anger, hatred that I think regular people would have towards someone that tried to kill you. So in terms of his mind, his heart, right, he's able to keep it much more pure and untainted from that situation he encountered. And just with our previous discussions on the Lord of the Rings, it reminded me of even Frodo and his journey. I mean, this Sheila reminded me of him. Like, why was Frodo tasked with being the one to be able to destroy the ring, when anyone whoever comes in contact with the ring, those darker parts of themselves, they come up and they become uncontrollable. But Frodo, as demonstrated even when Golem was trying to steal the ring on his journey, he always was able to maintain a sort of understanding, a sort of compassion towards Golem. So I think that revealed sort of how and why was Frodo actually chosen with this task. And I think the reasons are even deeper. It wasn't like someone specifically chose him. It's almost like the universe selected him because he was more of a pure mind and heart, and that's revealed very clearly when he has those situations, those challenging situations that he encounters. Yeah, so that's it for Sheila 12. Any questions, comments?
That's a beautiful, interesting that you interweave the tantric tradition, the Buddhist tradition, and the Christian tradition, and makes me thinking in all of those directions. You know how if you think that Buddha, not Buddha, but I mean Christ, if you look at him as somebody bodhisattva, you know, like somebody who aspires towards enlightenment and whose sole purpose of existence is to help others achieve this highest stance out of compassion. So compassion, I think, is the very interesting, very core virtue and practice that is at the heart of Buddhism, and I would say Tantra as well, and I would say Christianity as well, because if we think about Christ as somebody who has like, you know, if we look at him as somebody who has done it in order to help others, kind of to show that it's possible, even though everything or most things that he has done are very counterintuitive, just like this monk who was imprisoned by the Chinese unjustly and suffered all of this, just like Nelson Mandela, and all of these people, what they did not have this, they were not consumed by this anger. And it actually, I just finished watching, not just, but 2 months ago, the Rings of Power, based on Lord of the Rings, like Silmarillion, kind of pre-Lord of the Rings cycle. And there's this very interesting character called Adar, and he's basically a disfigured Uruk, or he's like the primordial orc, but basically he's just a corrupted elf, you know, like he follows all the Elvian precepts, and one of the Elvian precepts is something that is very powerful. He utters it in one of the last episodes of the second season. He says, "Never make war in anger. Never make war in anger." So in other words, keep yourself, like it's central in the Eastern cultures as well, in Buddhism and Tantric cultures. Yeah, thank you so much for the comparative approach, Japesh. Very, very, exciting. So guys, go ahead and share. We are over time 5 minutes, so let's take 2 minutes to share your examples and everything, and we will conclude and continue discussion in the chat. I'm saving all the comments, Maxim, myself. If others comment, I'll put them after that we are done today. So final comments, please, questions. Well, we can continue this conversation in the chat or, personal. So we have 3 more Shiilas left, Shiila 13, 14, and 15. So if I'm not mistaken, Shiila 13 is keep aloof from talkativeness, Shiila 14, obedience through the structural code of discipline, and 15 maybe sense of responsibility, if my memory serves me okay. So who wants to take the 3 Shiilas?
Did you say talkativeness?
Keep aloof from talkativeness. Don't be talkative. This is the 13th Shiila, I think.
I'm interested in it, but let me check. I need to see what happens next Thursday.
Okay, while he's checking about the 13th, what about 14th and 15th? Obedience to the structural code of conduct, and the 15th?
I think I can take it.
Okay, you take one. Okay, it's 13. So Sheila 13. Modovidio, can you pull up the Shiilas to make sure that I'm doing it correctly, that these are the right ones? So Sheila 13 max. Sheila 14. Okay, Japesh at Maram, anybody?
I can take any. 13?
Okay, you can do 14, 14. Japesh. And Sheila 15. At Maram, you are
Can
not
take it.
taking... Okay, Madhuvidi will do it, okay. Did you check?
Yeah, you said it correctly.
Sense of responsibility, the last one. Very good, very responsible of you. Okay, this is it. And we'll conclude next time and move on to the next topic, which is... Okay, let me first stop recording.